Hi, I'm Charmaine.
I'm Caris.
And this is our New Year's episode with our team from The Evolution.
Yay, some of our team.
Some of our team. And we had such a great time recording the podcast that it ran a little long, but there's some great content in here. So we've decided to split it into 2 different episodes.
So here's part 1 of the New Year's episode.
It's rolling, right?
Oh, yeah, it is rolling.
Pass back.
I'm so scared.
Can you see Edwin's hand trembling?
scared.
If you're watching this on YouTube. Yes.
Coffee is a dangerous thing.
Okay, so
Okay.
the time is 8:38. And we are recording this 1.5 hours late because the girls were waiting for the boys. Why? Because one boy didn't know how to tie his Vans skater boy shoelaces. And the other boy spilled coffee on his t-shirt. Yeah. This is how it always is. Girls are always waiting for boys. Woo! It's the reverse in our church.
Yes, so we shall start.
Okay.
So I'm Caris.
And I'm Charmaine.
And welcome to the New Year's episode of
Uncommon Humanity.
Yay, Happy New Year!
Happy New Year, guys. Yeah.
So what's really special today is that we have some of our team here. Woo! So we have Edwin, Selena, they are our youth leaders here in the Evolution. And we have Zihan.
Who's
and
our
also-
old man?
Still young.
Still young.
YP.
young person. And of course Raymond, who's behind the scenes. Yay!
Yes.
So it is 2021. We're finally entering phase 3 in full force. And it's really great that we started the year with live praise and worship.
Yes.
I know. We have not had that for a really long time.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
how does
yeah.
that feel
Oh,
for everybody?
I actually worship. I worship like with Raymond, like on our first praise and worship back.
Oh,
Yeah.
It was. I thought I was not gonna be nervous, but it ended up
You
being
ended up being
more
nervous.
nerve-wracking. Yep.
Yeah. But you guys are doing such a good job. Yeah, totally a good job. Yeah.
But I enjoyed jumping and clapping.
Yeah,
I
actually
couldn't do it at
jumping,
home.
right?
Like,
Yeah.
At home was like,
Yeah.
very quietly. Don't disturb like my friends.
Yeah. But it's been so good, huh?
yeah.
Yes.
I think you really can't tell that you really missed it that much until you hear it live.
Yeah, for
With all
sure.
the singing and everyone just being in the atmosphere together.
And it's so nice to be able to preach without a mask now. Except that it's 3.5 meters away from the people. But yeah, it's
but
all good.
still awesome. So in today's New Year episode, it's pretty fitting that we talk about how do we go into 2021. So whenever New Year comes around, what people usually fret about is like how do we set goals, what resolutions, what do I need to accomplish for the year. So just a week back, a week and a half, Pastor preached an awesome message
Yeah.
called By Goal Setting, Hello Habit Stacking, which you should give it a listen if you haven't. Go onto the Evolution YouTube channel, subscribe and check it out and listen to it because that message shifted our mindsets about just how do we go about setting goals in a new year, especially one that has been so unpredictable like to 2020 and then this year as well. So how can we still like grow and flourish in uncertainty? So to start things off, I was reading about functional fixedness from Carl Dawker, which Pastor mentioned in her message, which is how human beings, we have tendencies to be fixated, especially like in crisis, we become rigid, we find it hard to see solutions and to innovate. So one thing he said, I find it very interesting, is that he said that people tend to see the use of the object rather than the object itself. So people tend to overlook 2/3 of the features an object really possess. So I was thinking like, okay, that explains like a lot of like the human problem. Like the way we see ourselves and other people. Like we don't really see the human, like the human behind the face or the features. And we kind of judge ourselves and other people in narrow definitions and find it hard to break free from a label or box that we put ourselves in. So I have a question, which is how do we know or how can we tell if we have become too fixated with a goal or with a dream?
Okay, so the metaphor I always use is that you don't want to be a horse with blinders on. Okay, Because a horse with blinders can see what's ahead, but they can't see what's on the left and right on them. Whereas when we talk about being focused with our goals, you do want to have a clear focus on the target that you have in front of you, but you want to have peripheral vision, like soft focus, so that you can see what's to the left and right on you if there are things coming your way that are unpredictable, or opportunities even that are coming your way on the left and right, where you can maybe divert a little bit and pick up those opportunities, then hit back to your focus. So I think basically that is it. To not be too rigid is I think the point of not being fixated with our goals and dreams, to the point that when something doesn't go your way, you freak out, or you feel badly about your plans and your dreams, because as you get older you realize that actually really nothing goes according to exact plans that you have at all. Okay, so I think it's really important to be able to have that, to have focus, but to still have that flexibility to move, especially when things are so uncertain like this year.
So basically, like PC, what you mean is like, don't just have like a tunnel vision and then all that you see is just that.
Yeah.
To have like both focus and then at the same time.
Like clear focus of what's ahead, but soft focus on the things that are beside you.
Yeah.
Personally, I actually reminded of last year, of the situation last year where there was COVID and stuff like that. But I thought that reflects pretty well. So what was like your thought process when you were leading the whole church throughout all of this, without like comparing us to like other churches or other stuff like that?
Yeah, I think COVID has just been a totally unexpected situation, right? And I think initially the whole world pretty much freaked out because I mean, for Singapore, it was like regulations were changing every 2 weeks was it even called phase 1 at that point? I don't know what it was called. Circuit breaker and all that. So it was just changing every 2 weeks, and we couldn't figure out and we just had to at that point not react, but we needed to immediately respond because it was a safety issue, and then we wanted to keep church running. And so initially we had to decide, okay, there are some things we do have to immediately respond. But then as things went by and we realized that, okay, this is not going to change, then we've got to figure out what's a priority, what's not. And we had to figure out how to stay focused and not kind of get into the anxiousness that we saw a lot of people and a lot of churches kind of fall into, which is they're just scrambling to keep their congregations together. And then initially also they're trying to fight to keep churches coming to church and stuff. Yeah, but we were kind of very relaxed. But I will say, again, in our favor, we're not a big family church. You know, we are a youth church and we are a creative church. So for us, being able to flex our muscles with creativity and to take things online, it was actually thrilling for us to some degree. But then also we had the flood with the massive flood that swept the auditorium. Yeah, and then that became another thing. And then we just had to, okay, we're gonna make do and figure it out and then go with it Yeah,
because PC the whole 2020, looking back, how do you think we can better prepare for this crisis, or to decide when to draw the line for certain changes that's happening?
You know, I think part of the reason, okay, so I am saying that we have certain things in our favor, but I think part of the reason why we were prepared for this crisis, our church already has had certain capacities. We've already had a principle in our leadership team where we always try to do our best as leaders to respond and not to react to things. And so in that sense, right, our capacity as people and as a team was very prepared, as prepared as we could be for a crisis. But I don't think anyone can ever be 100% prepared for any crisis that comes down the pipeline. But if you have capacity, then crisis becomes an opportunity for you to grow and to learn and to stop and take stock and reflect. Which the other half of it is what it has been for us, because we've decided last year to only do things that help the church and only do things that brought us joy, and we were still having fun to a degree, enough fun. And so it became an opportunity to reflect also and see, hey, what things actually do we not like about our church, and what things do we want to keep, and what things do we want to develop. So I don't think you can ever be 100% prepared for crisis, but I think also what's very clear is people and teams that didn't have that capacity for crisis, it becomes very obvious and exposed during a prolonged situation like this.
So PC, will you say that like if someone is not responding well to, let's say, like a crisis, right? Is it an issue with like they hasn't determined or predetermined to like respond rather than react? Like, meaning, is it an awareness issue, or is it like they are just very fixated on the problem, or is it like a both?
Oh God, I think it's all of the above. Because I think being fixated comes from a lack of capacity to deal with change.
Okay, yeah.
You know, so it is that, and then it could also be a lack of self-awareness where people charge the thing. So one of the things also that keeps happening, there's a lot of relational problems happening this year, right? Because people are not self-aware that under pandemic circumstances, you are stressed, you get a bit sharp with your words, and it takes, I mean, even for those of us that do have the capacity for awareness and EQ and social skills, we are aware that, we're short-fused. In certain situations, we're a little less, we have a little less capacity or energy left to deal with people on a normal basis, for example. Yeah, so I think it's really all of the above. But I will say also this, right? I don't think people should be too hard on themselves. So you weren't prepared for this crisis. Maybe you're in a journey in your life where this is your first crisis that you experienced in order to jar you to grow. Whereas for someone like me who's been in leadership for a bit longer, and some of you, especially Zihan and yourself, who have been in leadership for very long, then this is just, this is like the third or fourth crisis, maybe a bit heavier and harder, but we're like, okay, we have already built up lessons and resources and experience, you see. So I don't think it's a right or wrong answer, or you are deficient or not. I think you just do your best to get through it.
Yeah, I wanted to say like, oh no, we are older.
We are older. You are older.
Okay, it's a good
You just heard. Okay, no.
I just turned older.
Okay. Go on.
Yeah, Fizzy. Another question is, I find this whole like rigidity, fixation thing like a funny and ironic thing. Like, because we kind of say like, you gain momentum by going at something over and over again. That requires like what we just said, which is focus. And then you got to focus on something and then just keep going to gain momentum. And then you build habits that way, like you just keep going and it builds. But then at the same time, we need to, like what you say, which is we need to learn to flex like with changes. I'm just curious, is there a line that we draw?
I don't think there's a line, but I do think personality sometimes plays a role in it. You need to know what kind of a person you are and just be conscious that sometimes that plays a part, right? Like I am actually, to a degree, in my unhealthy self and my instincts, I'm a very structured person. That means I don't like things not going according to my plan. But so what I've learned over the years to do is to build flexibility into my plan. So that like the plan is flexible, the structure itself is flexible. So I think I think personality plays a part. You gotta find a way to do it that works for you. But I do think in the broader perspective, right, I think the moment you hit an uncertain situation like a crisis or a prolonged pandemic, and you need to immediately realize that, okay, I need to let go of my rigid goal setting and resolutions. And I need to create more flexible outcomes that I'm aiming for. If things were normal, it's just a normal year where it's like everything is going according to plan, like generally 80% of the time, then by all means be as rigid as you want. So I think it's that thing about just knowing what context and space and time you are in and deciding what principle is going to operate the best in this circumstance.
Because I think Edwin has a similar questions about obsession and fixation with a goal. Like, how do we know, like, we can't give up, we gotta,
So physically, I was always told in work, right, to be like fixated and obsessed with like our goals or like
advertising, right?
Then
sales also.
Physically, like they share like stories like one great figure like Steve Jobs, for example. Like
that he's obsessed.
He was obsessed and fixated with his vision for Apple, and then he did what he can to make that vision come to pass. Physically, just asked like, should we do this for our dreams and ambition like this year?
I understand that. I've been accused of that before when I was younger too, that I'm too obsessed with the calling of God. Which was, I was like, I do agree to a degree because I'm very passionate once I go for something, I'm like all out for it. But I don't think that necessarily always means that you are unhealthily obsessed and fixated, you see. I think, again, you see, that would be a wrong idea to have of Steve Jobs. Was he very driven and very obsessed with making Apple great? Yes, he was, but it was his peripheral vision that allowed him to create iPod and iTunes. So if you don't know what we're talking about, go listen to the sermon. Plugging the YouTube channel. Because he basically wanted to put a personal computer in everybody's hands, but along the way he noticed that the people around him loved their music and it was too chunky to carry around. And he said, hey, so why don't I also just take that same trajectory but apply it to music? And then he put it into a little iPod, which then a few years later turned into iTunes. And then a few years later turned into like iCloud. And then now it's inspired and spawned the whole Netflix streaming music. So I would disagree with leaders who just take that one thing that out of his personality and just go, he was obsessed and fixated and that's how you be successful. Yeah, I'm not sure he did that. Yeah, I mean, he was smart enough to hire Tim Cook, right? Who was a balancing point for him. But that means he had peripheral vision to understand that he is not everything. So I don't think I completely agree with the assessment that he was too obsessed. Yeah. So I think it really depends what is really going on in your company. If they're saying obsessed, it could be that they're really, really too fixated and obsessed and then they're missing things. But I don't think necessarily sometimes when we say that word, it necessarily means what we actually feel or are doing as we accomplish stuff.
But do you think there's a need to be like crazily obsessed to be like really good at it? Like PC, like if I'm passionate about a certain thing, like there needs to be a period where I need to be like obsessed with it.
Again, I think there's no one size fits all. I feel like there are periods where I am crazily obsessed and it is reasonable. And I think this is the problem with social media and pop culture, psychology and business movements, right? They keep trying to put a one size fits all on everybody. But some people get to the journey differently. And we have periods of obsession, we have periods of laying off things, or some of us are a personality that's more steady, goes the way. So I think you just really have to do what's best for you. Of course, within the bounds of, because for us as a Christian community and a community that values relationship and team, it is very important to remember that it is not only you that's accomplishing a goal, and you have to bear in mind, especially you guys are all leaders, right? You have to remember that not everybody on your team can do it the same way as you, and they must flex to you, but as a leader, you must take care of them as well. Yeah. So I think it's okay to be obsessed if what you mean by obsession is not step out over other people and destroy them in order to get what you want.
Yeah, I wanted to say like obsession is not like maybe Steve Jobs has a obsession with like creativity. I think maybe he has an idea of like how he wants Apple to be, but he was like what PC said, like not obsession with the form that it takes, but the bigger thing of like creativity and wanting a better future or wanting a certain world. Yeah,
but I guess, you see, a lot of geniuses are weird, aren't they? And a lot of leaders are unreasonable, right? I mean, that's what makes you, there is a part of it that's what makes you a leader, because you are doggedly like, we can do this better, or we have a vision that we want to accomplish. So there's no way, like, when people complain that leaders are difficult, there's no way a leader won't be difficult. It's just, I don't think a leader has to be horrendously nasty and horrible. Or at least not my vision of a leader. But I can see how some leaders, even with those traits, have managed to do great things. So it's a tricky thing. I just think it's not easy to typecast fulfilling a passion.
Yes.
I have another question. I don't know if it's related to this, but basically, because about the message, right? The habits message. So since the message, I've been like on social media and stuff, I've been looking at actually a lot of things that people are putting out are about habits this year. I'm not sure why, but yes, you see. So Yeah, so I
Interesting.
want
I've been trying to keep off it. No, every sermon's like that. I'm trying to like keep off it so I don't get influenced by
Yeah.
other people's.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
it's not sure, but
Yeah.
seems like this year.
Well, it is the smartest solution to go this year after 1 year of pandemic, right? And then we're going into part 2. It really feels like one full long year. Yeah, because I think the usual resolutions and goal settings and outcome settings are not going to work this year. They'll work for some things, simple things. Maybe, I mean, if you're thinking my goal is this month I will read 1 book, okay lah, then no problem lah. But I think if you're looking to build your life, and I think a lot of people are thinking about that right now because that whole year has been so hard, 2020. People are asking themselves the question, is this who I want to be and is this the life I want to lead?
Yeah.
And so naturally, actually, even that predisposes them to rethink their goals and to look at more identity-based outcomes and long-term, where do I want to be and who do I want to be as a person? So I think then it's natural, then you will shift from the KPI version of life to identity, habits, things that make me happy and make me flourish as a human being. Yeah. So that's interesting. I didn't know that. I thought it was only maybe Paul Scanlon. Paul Scanlon's been talking about habits. I didn't know that everyone else is talking about habits.
It's like all the productivity gurus.
Oh, really? Okay. I follow too many church pastors. I was like, faith. And okay. Yeah. Not everyone lah, but it's like mostly like faith.
You see then cause moving this year to next year, right? There's not it's like new year, but there's not a lot of changes. So how do we go in with a new mindset? Time is like a social construct. So it's like
how do we go in with a new mindset?
Since it's gonna be kind of the same. Is there still COVID?
Yeah, okay. I think because the normal markers that we punctuate our life with, for our church, we usually have New Year's Eve celebration, and then we welcome in the New Year. We conclude Christmas. Christmas is a big deal, so we wind down, and then we start the New Year. And we go, okay, this is what we're going to do this year. But this year, we're dropping this episode, right?
Yes.
By the time you get this, guys, if you're listening, it's going to be end of January already, the New Year's Day. Yeah, because we are encouraging our people to, guys, take time.
Yeah.
Just chill out, take some time with this. It's okay if you don't know what you want yet. I haven't figured out a lot of what habits I'm going to develop this year because there's things in church to be settled. There's things as a leader that I need to settle. So, but I think it is important to maybe evaluate where you're coming from and what's holding you back. And think about what attitudes do I want going into 2021. Yeah, and I think that's very important because I think especially right now when some people are feeling very down. So I'm not dissing faith theology completely. I'm dissing the holding too rigidly to your previous way of doing things. Which is just chiong the year and let's just go in confident. Let's I can see half of it being very helpful because even with our church, we say hey guys, we want to encourage you to be ambitious. Because I think positivity is very important to building identity and very important to trajectory. If you don't feel hope, you don't feel motivation. You don't feel motivated, there's no energy and drive to try. So I see why faith is important, but I can see also how it's damaging if people are not reflecting. Actually, what is it that they need to have in their attitudes to move forward? Otherwise, you're kind of going to do more of the same and not really do what you do need to do to move forward in 2021.
Yes. So we were saying about identity-based outcomes and identity-based habits and also outcome-based habits. We were saying we get way better results if we anchor our lives on identity-driven habits rather than outcome-based goals. And I'm just curious, how defined must our identity be in order for it to be a good trajectory? It cannot just be as broad as I want to be a good human. And also how about people who are say going through some sort of identity or quarter life crisis or they're deconstructing their identities, and how do they navigate about
that's 5 questions. You're gonna have to remind me later what you say exactly. Okay. So this habits idea, right? What's it? Identity-based habit building, right? Is a concept that I took from James Clear, his book, the #1 New York Times bestseller book called Atomic Habits. So please go check that out because sometimes you want to learn things from the horse's mouth, right? But he found that identity-based habits, for example, this year I want to be a joyful leader. Like, okay, so let me give you, last year I set the goal and I said, I want to be a leader that makes people feel like they are the smartest person in the room after interacting with me. I want to be a leader that makes people feel good about themselves and they enjoy working for me. It was one of my goals. Another goal was I want to be joyful. I want to have fun doing what I'm doing. I don't want to slog away anymore like I have been for my whole life. I want to be joyful as I accomplish this particular goal, A, B, C, D, E. Yeah, so that would be more identity-based habits as compared to, we're going to grow the church to 200 this year, full stop. Then it just becomes a target, a very emotionless, unmotivating, unvisionary target that you've got to hit. Yeah. So I think that's the difference. You want to build something that resonates with you and makes you feel like you are growing as a person and that propels you forward. Okay, so that's the first one. What other questions were you asking? Oh my God.
Like, how about people who are going through
some crisis and difficulty? You know, actually, I think the reason why people go through crisis and difficulty is because we've been setting goals the wrong way. We've been chasing things the wrong way. I need to get this car and that apartment and that I need to earn this much money by the time I'm this years old. And it's a very, first it's goals that are not very identity based. They are what, they're not who, is what I like to say. Then on the other hand, there are also, the tendency is most of the time, especially in Singapore, I feel like those goals come out of comparison. We think that's what everybody is doing. That's what's expected of us. And so we just go from the next goal to the next goal, the next year to the next year, and we don't know why our soul isn't flourishing. Yeah. So I think one of the great things about this pandemic is that kind of vision of life is being deconstructed, where people under this circumstance are like, this is not how I want to live my life. And the answer to that really is identity. Yeah. Now that being said, identity changes. And I also, this is another new concept I've heard of recently, that you can have multiple identities. And that's cool too. So identity, you can have multiple identities, your identity can change. Well, I don't think it will change 180 degrees. I think it evolves. Yeah, but a practical way we talked about recently, right, in yesterday's sermon, oh my gosh, my days are all blending together. Yesterday's sermon was that I said to, the practical advice I gave our church was, your ambition should lie in the intersection between what is your passion, what is your design, what you're gifted to do, what you can do naturally, and what you can make a life with, like economic gain. So I'm adapting this idea actually, right, from Jim Collins' Good to Great, when he talks about organizations. But I find actually that book is not really just about business, it's about leadership, it's about life. Like, you need to find an intersection point within those three, and that is the best way that you can progress your life forward and feel happy, because passion gives you energy, your design makes you feel secure because you do it well, and then if you can make money doing it, you can build a life. Okay, so you need that. And I think it's okay to every year reevaluate that, whether something is shifted or you've discovered something new about yourself. Identity can evolve. I don't see anything wrong with that.
Yeah. Actually, when you are sharing it, I was like thinking, oh, so when like someone is going through like a sort of like an identity crisis, or they really feel lost, is a marker, like an indicator that something about their identity needs to anchor.
Yeah,
deeper,
something needs
or
to
needs
shift.
to shift.
Or about the way they're doing life, or something isn't sitting the same anymore, they're changing. And sometimes it's not even a bad thing, it could be because they're changing, but they feel uncomfortable because you're not supposed to change. People don't like you to change, society doesn't like you, they want you to stay the same, and they want you to just be a cog in the machine. But also, there are other reasons now. For example, there could be the crisis could be emotional and relational. They could be have something that they are hurt by or disappointed by and they haven't worked through. Because again, in Singapore, nobody likes to talk about their feelings. Nobody dares to say that we're going to therapy or need to go to therapy. So that could be external factors. Because I think sometimes even when you do your passion, right? When you get hurt by people while doing your passion can turn into something you hate for a period, not forever. Because I feel passion always cycles back around. But certainly doing church as a leader, there have been times where I hate my own calling. Moments, not because of y'all, never because of y'all. I love y'all. You're the best. You're the A team. Yeah.
Pastor, you can say the truth.
It's the truth. Completely the truth. Yeah. But yeah, it happens. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not that it's not your passion. Just sometimes that happens.
Yeah, because PC, I agree, because the whole pandemic, I have many friends who are very driven, and suddenly they are in this like crisis where they always thought that this is the thing they want to do or this is the life they want to be, especially those who travel often. When they can't travel, they are stuck at home. They start to have the cabin fever. They start to think about life and everything, and they start to realize there are a lot of things, especially like the part about their identity. They start to realize that a lot of things is not really what they want. So on that point, like PC on us is like for those who are in this situation, like they are again like finding out about their identity, where should their starting point be? Like what some questions they should ask themselves?
Ooh, wow, that's a really extensive conversation. It really varies from person to person. So I don't know how to exactly pinpoint for you right in this moment what it should be. I just do think, okay, maybe one helpful tool I feel is they do really have to externalize their thoughts. I'll give you a tool instead, okay? Because I don't know, it could be different for everybody. But I do think they need to externalize their thoughts, whether it's talking to somebody else who, if they're very messy-minded, help them structure, or putting their thoughts down to paper to really ask themselves difficult questions about, like, for example, I'm feeling this way, name the feeling, and why am I feeling this way, and is it accurate? Because sometimes we mix up, right? We think this is what's making us unhappy, but actually you trace is something else. And then what can I do about it? I think is very important. It must graduate to what? But the key point is they must externalize, because sometimes what happens is all our anxiety gets caught in here in a whirlwind, and if we don't verbalize, we don't externalize it, we don't put it to paper, we don't tell it to somebody else, we never crystallize what's really going on, and then we just get stuck in this vortex of anxiety. But then the next question we never do is the what, because that can be very scary, especially for Singaporeans too. What if you come to the conclusion that this is not what I want? And I have to reconstruct a new life. That is freak out for most Singaporeans. It really is, especially because, I think maybe even in a community like ours that is creative and we encourage it, right? It's already scary. Then don't say a person who is the usual Singaporean where everybody tells them, no, you must do this, and then you must do this, and you must do that. And then if they have responsibilities like a family or kids, then it's even scarier. So like how then do they progress to change up their life? And then what do they do with a partner who is not? So it's complicated, but they must externalize the feelings. They must come to some crystallization, and then they can pragmatically decide, okay, what can I change out? What should or shouldn't change out? What is it that I can gradually move on, maybe? So I think that's what they need to do, basically.
Because like because you were saying like, identities are always evolving, right? I was talking about like youth. Because youth are going to the stage where anything is possible, right? Like I can be anything. And there's still like, and a lot of things is like external factors like school and then family that they're taking on their identity too. See, like for youth, right? Like where should they start? Because often I talk to them, they're just like, question mark. I don't know where to begin.
God, they must dream. But really, sometimes I feel youth is as simple as asking them, do you have a dream? Now, because again, personality comes into play, right? So they need more encouragement to dream. Sometimes you have to prod them, okay, why don't you try this, try that? Because their personalities, they must try, then they know, right? Which we have youth like that. And then some, very quickly, once you ask them the question, they can answer already. So I think it's so important to get them to dream. I think youth it's a great time to build their confidence. It's a great time to build daring in their spirit, which I wish more people had done that for me. I had, but I wish I was raised to be more secure so that I will be more brave when I go out. But at the same time, I also feel you got to raise them with certain pragmatism. Like, okay, great, this is your dream, but now you got to be willing to work for your dream. It cannot just be the world is your oyster and then you get so disappointed when you do very little work, you expect the world to drop into your lap. Like, that's just ridiculous, which is what a lot of millennials have.
Yeah.
We have that. Yeah, because our parents told us the world is our oyster. And then, every millennial is like, okay, here comes the quarter life crisis. Life didn't go according to plan and you were surprised why. Yeah, but Gen Z is very different. Gen Z is super, a lot more pragmatic. You guys are on the cusp, right? So maybe you have the perfect balance of both. But I think with youth, I think you just got to ask them, you got to build it into it and make them work for it also. Because I think that two things will make them most resilient in life.
So I have actually another question, right? Which is like, how about identity-based goals for like when we are leading a team?
Yeah.
Because when we have a team goal, right? So does it mean like some individuals we have to sacrifice our dreams or ambitions in order to, for the whole team to actually make
That
progress
will always
together?
be the conundrum, isn't it? Okay, let me rephrase it. Okay, maybe my first thing I would say is my belief is in community. I believe in synergy. I believe in all. I love this analogy where I used to say like we're all a piece of a jigsaw. We are valuable as ourselves, very valuable. People feel it when you're missing from the picture, but we all build a big picture and we are all important. Every piece is important. Be yourself, bring yourself to the table. But at the same time, there is a degree of needing to flex. But rather than see it as a sacrifice, now again, let me say it's very dangerous because if you say this to somebody who is in a very abusive community where individual is subsumed by the whole, then it's dangerous. So you must language it right and the community culture has to be right. But I don't see it as sacrifice. I see it as if you are open to letting yourself be changed by other people, you might discover new things about yourself that you didn't know before. And it's not a dichotomy, it's not us versus them, community versus I. I just think be open to the idea and you might discover that this is actually more of who I am than I realized. Because I used to, when I was younger, be very rigid. I remember one pastor came and then he prophesied over me and then he said, you're going to heal up the brokenhearted. And I was so brokenhearted after he said that to me because I hate counseling. I don't like listening to problems endlessly. I'm just not built for that. But I do like listening to people's problems in a mentoring situation, to coach them to leadership, to coach them to be prepared for life. But back then I was so rigid. I was like, no, this is gonna kill my dreams. and when I became open to that, oh wait, no, that is who I am, and I enjoy that bit. I don't shy away from broken. I shy away from drama. Is what I shy away from. So I think you might discover, but again, it's always a constant. It's not perfect. It's a constant shift. Relationships are complicated and messy. There's a lot of conversation that needs to happen when you're being too subsumed, you're giving too much, or you need to give more.
Yeah. I wanted to ask, should we do both, PC, the identity-based goals and also outcome-based goals? It's not either or, right? Because I was just thinking, some people, for them, short-term wins kind of motivate them to keep growing, keep changing. And then for some other people, having too many goals builds too much anxiety. It's oh my gosh, how am I going to keep up with all these things? And then it's a hindrance to their progress instead. So is it
I think you need both. But I do think for everyone, this is my opinion, the outcome-based comes first and the identity-based comes first and the outcome-based comes second and completes the process. And according to your personality, you set as many or as little as you need that works. So for example, for me this year, one of the things is I want to I want to take up my creative writing more as a writer, do more creativity stuff, my life as an artist, besides being a pastor. But in order to do that, I have to shift certain things around in my life to make that happen, right? And so the next few months, I have to train leaders. I have to prepare the time and my schedule to allow for writing. So if I don't do certain things, I'm not going to get to certain things. So I have a goal, like within the next 3 to 6 months, I must train a certain amount of leadership ability, and then I will have time to go and write. But for you, for example, you like goals, right? Tangible goals. Then by all means set more lah. Now then these three on the sofa are primarily on like a certain kind of personality. They do well with a lot of things at the same time. Oh my gosh, these three have their hand in don't know how many pies in church, right? But they like variety. They get bored.
Gives them energy.
Yeah, it keeps them energized. But for me, I'm like, oh, that's so tiring. I need to do one thing at a time, preferably. So I just think the way you set the goals looks different based on your identity and your personality. So it's fine to have as many as you want and to, but I would say don't do the silly thing, which is like set 10 goals for 2021. Or 10 things you want to have. You're not going to hit anything. Right? It always is like that, or we set 10 resolutions and we hit none. So make a plan that works for you. Like, because I feel the wins motivate you to keep going. So the more then that's why habit stacking, right? You do one habit and you can hit the wins easy enough and satisfying, then you're motivated to go to the next level and the next level and the next level.
This I want to ask, right? Like, because from what I'm sharing right now, it's like identity-based goals sounds more qualitative, and outcome-based goals are usually quantitative, like in the sense where you can count on that. Like, you see, like should we set small KPIs or like small milestones to measure that? And then how does it work for identity-based goals?
I look at identity-based goals. Okay, so the way James maybe I separate two terms here, right? So one is trajectory that I introduced to you, which is I have a vision of what I want my identity and my life to look like, who I want to be in the next couple of years, or it could be long-term, depends on how you set it. But then the smaller chunks could be, for example, I want to be a very accurate or efficient trainer when it comes to training preachers and not haphazard. Because I want to raise them up to be clear and confident on the pulpit. Like it's a little bit more rich than just saying I'm going to train 10 preachers this year. I'm going to put 10 people on the pulpit. You know, I have a certain vision of how I want my 10 preachers to look like. And for example, definitely one of my identity-based goals would be like, I want to see the preachers I train this year flourish in their style of preaching. That they are clear communicators, they are robust communicators, but I want them to flourish in their style. I want to bring out who they are and not mold them to my image and my KPI of this is how you preach a sermon. So my prep with different preachers will look different. There are certain baselines and then there are certain things that are very flexible. Also, for example, I don't know, your worship team. Like we have a worship team trajectory, right? That Raymond has said, like, that all of you agree with, which is we don't want to just be a worship team that does the thing of cut albums and do everything. But our vision is like, let's build something social justice related into the way we do music and connecting people with God. We want to transform them through the lyrics of the music that they sing and bring them towards more inclusivity and all that stuff. But then the smaller goals could be little things like when you train a youth, right? Instead of like, they go, I want to be a guitarist on the worship team, like, okay, what kind of a guitarist do you want to be? And they go, I want to be someone that plays music and brings people into the presence of God. That is way more captivating, and that will last through many goals for many years. Because the little KPI could be like, you better learn how to do your frets and your your drills. Like if you cannot do that, then how to play? So I that's how I envision it. Like there's this big picture, and it keeps getting smaller and smaller, and like.
I'm just curious, like how does God reveals our identity? Is that like a big
another podcast?
Dun, 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 dun.
Again, I think God reveals it according to who you are. See, I've always been, there's a pattern in my life. 80% of the time, God shows me a big picture. And that, for me, immediately captivates me, and I automatically can find a structure and a system to get there. But some people need a word every year.
Yeah.
They need a word from God about what the next 10 months is going to look like, and they go, and they don't need to know the big picture. And then 10 months again, they need to go and pray, and they've got to figure that out again. I think it really goes according to personality. I think it goes according to just who you are and designed to be. Yeah. So just find God the way you find God.